Hello and welcome to Ham Nation, episode 542 for March 15th, 2033. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. And hello, everybody. Hello, everybody is what I should say. Welcome to Ham Nation. Thanks for clicking on the Ham Radio Crash Course. Got a fun show, Snowbound Hams. What do we do in a crazy weather situation? So we're going to talk about that. But let's first say hi to the hosts right now. Hey, everybody. A lot of you have green on. I appreciate that. I realized I went hunting for green, and I'm in front of a green screen, so none of that's going to work. I look like I'd have a whole top of my head missing or something along those lines. But starting at the top there, Joe, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, Josh, and I'm going to be showing a kit that I'm working on that has kind of a long build time on it, but it's a very interesting SDR receiver kit, and we'll be talking about that this evening.
Excellent. Gordo, how are you?
I am fine, and if we're ready for an emergency, the Mountaintop team has it all handled, as you'll hear.
Excellent. Don, how are things in your neck of the woods? Very green today. Looks great.
Thank you. Yeah, green's my favorite color. I love green, and we're gonna hear from Dr. T. She's got a fairly extensive report coming up. In fact, I'll tell you more. She gave me an update via Twitter earlier, and I'll tell you that as we get into her report. But yeah, I love St. Patrick's Day. I love green. St. Patrick's Day back in 1984 is actually the day that my wife first actually met in person. We met actually on the request line at the radio station in New Orleans, my very first night, which is a weird story in itself, but we actually met in person for the first time on St. Patrick's Day back in 84, and then married in September of 84. So it was a quick courtship, and here now, 38 years later, here we still are. So happy Boober's Day, baby. That's kind of an inside joke, but nonetheless, yeah, well, very happy about that. Yeah.
Very good.
So yeah, I'm a happy guy.
Amanda, how are you this week?
Oh, fantastic. You know, I got that greenhouse built and seedlings are coming up and it's been great. But now we're about to take our first snowstorm and very deep freeze. So we're going to see how it really withstands everything. But I'm just here for the show. I'm just here to hand questions out tonight. Seriously, this is going to be fun. Chat room, I'm going to be really interactive tonight because I don't have anything else to do. And that's going to be kind of unusual for me, so I'll take it. And other than that, stay tuned. We've got a great show. So with that, I'm going to send it to Gordo. Gordo, take it away.
Well, thank you so much, Amanda. You know, so many emergency groups, so many ham radio clubs, when they induct a new member, they have them fill out a questionnaire, and it always asks about all of their radio equipment and all of their antennas and their backup batteries. But many times they miss the most important gizmo in all of ham radio to handle an emergency or an event that no one knew was going to happen in advance. And that is, what is that new club member or that emergency operator's skills? Let's tonight look at what it takes to be prepared for the big one. And then when the big one hits, we find out it's not necessarily the ARES or the AES or the emergency group that you belong to, but rather joining in with your skills. And tonight we have Dee Dee, but before Dee Dee, Tracy, WM6T, way up at Lake Arrowhead at about 6,000 feet. Tracy and his wife, Jody, have done such a fabulous job of pulling together folks, not by their antennas or the amount of radios they have, but their skills. Here's Tracy to tell us all about the big emergency that occurred for the last 2.5 weeks. Tracy?
Hey, well, thank you very much, Gordon. And so you'll hear from me for a little bit. We're going to have some, looks like I'm frozen. All right, now I'm not frozen. So let's go ahead with some of the slides here, and we'll kind of get started here. So first of all, I know a lot of people probably don't know exactly where we are up in the San Bernardino National Forest. So on this one here, kind of that yellow splotch there that I put on the map is kind of where we are. So you kind of see Los Angeles is a little bit to the left and down there, and Santa Barbara's up above. San Diego's kind of down at the bottom. Kind of give you an idea of where we are. And next, shows you actually the part of the San Bernardino Mountains where we have our Aries team and our club, our ham radio club, the Mountaintop Amateur Radio Association. Some of the areas we're going to be talking about, and Dee Dee's going to be doing a little bit more details a little later, is going to be the issues we've had with this fairly large snow here in Crestline, Lake Arrowhead, Big Bear Lake, and Running Springs. We'll kind of highlight some of those communities. That kind of shows you, where they are inside that yellow one that you saw on the previous map. So this was a little bit different storm. There's red dots on there. The red dots are the roads to get in or out of the mountains. And you can see we only have 5 roads in and out of the mountains for the 45,000 or so people that all live up there. So when the roads get closed, actually one of them's partially closed now due to a landslide, rock slides. We have those fairly often. But when the snows came and they were all closed for over a week, we were kind of isolated. So that's what those red dots are on there. So let's go to the next slide here. So what happened is we knew in advance by approximately a week that a fairly large snowstorm, actually there's 2 of them in a row, were going to be coming our way. We've practiced over the years to have something called an observation report summary. So actually on February 24th, we made our calls out to teams, to all of our members. They could check in, and we have this form that's somewhat automated, and they give us information really, really quick to the net control operators. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but this is an automated form, and every club member also has a paper version of this as well as an automated form. And you can quickly see there under the section that kind of says weather, you can see there's a whole bunch of red X's. That's because they're reporting snow already at the very beginning. That gives us the information we need. And then over on the far right-hand side, we get things like the elevation of their location and the depth of snow. And that's actually turned into NOAA because we're also Skywarn members. So NOAA, actually, they usually call me on the phone to get depths at my place, and then we turn in this entire report. So we have this thing that just kind of gets us started, and then we have really good information in case we have to turn it in to any of the agencies, include our served agency, which is the San Bernardino County Fire Department in our case. So anyway, just want to show you that real quick. It's a nice, simple form, and it takes care of it. And it's not just for snow. It's for the other things we have, which usually we don't talk about on the air, but I will now. We have fires. So we had 9 significant fires this last year and about 22 smaller ones. And then we have rainfalls and some flooding events. So, and hopefully no earthquakes. We haven't had one for quite a while.
Hey,
So
Tracy.
anyway, yes.
I was just going to quickly interject. So is this a handwritten kind of program through like Google Docs or something? What are you using here?
It's an Excel spreadsheet.
Okay.
So it could be up on Google Docs and can be used that way. With this event, we actually had internet. For a lot of the events, we do not have internet. In fact, sometimes just when we have major windstorms and stuff like that and the power is down, whatever. So it could be on Google Docs. The net control operators have this exact form in front of them. So they can do it, because if we lose the internet, then Google Docs doesn't work too well.
Sure.
As you might expect. And that's one of the things I learned a long time ago. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I learned a long time ago when I was doing some work for FEMA. They came up with this amazing thing, but it only worked on the internet for major disasters in the United States. And I pointed out to them, as the quote expert on this, that we had an event up here and there was no internet and there was a major fire. So they decided, we better have one that just works on a laptop. So anyway, let's move on. But yeah, I can give you more information, Amanda, on that if you'd like to.
Sure thing.
Here's just a couple of photos of a couple of the communities around. It kind of shows you, this is only actually after the first storm, not the big one. This is just after the first storm. And the one in the middle is kind of in red. I think it's an interesting one because that's a gas station over in the Running Springs area. But you can see gas stations have large covers over them. You can see the snow is halfway up, even though it had a big cover over it. So there was a lot of snow coming in there. Okay, let's go to next here. Kind of move along. So, like I said, it started on the 24th, and by March 1st, the governor declared it a state of emergency to send resources to a number of counties, but San Bernardino was the most impacted. And then a little bit later on March 10th, actually, as we were coming out of this, actually a few days out of it, the President Biden in the White House declared it as a major disaster declaration. It helped us get additional resources National Guard and stuff like that. But the snow was already here, and Dee Dee will fill you in on everything that it caused. So let's go to the next one here. So up here in the mountains, we have about 170 members in our club up here in the Little Mountains area, and 40 of them are within our Aries group, which is the Mountaintop Aries group. And these are the net control operators we have. See, I've got Dee Dee at the top because she was our main one, and she's also our Aries EC. And then we have other ones. She'll probably mention some of these here. These are all net control operators, and they did different shifts. Typically, they had 2-hour shifts, and they rotated around 12 hours every day for the 12 days. So it was pretty intense for them, and they are all very, very good operators. So let's go on to the next one here. Just a couple things I wanted to show you in the way of photos. So this is from one of our members. So what happened is they brought up some fire crews from actually down in the Orange County area. They brought up teams of 25 each, and they would dig people out of their homes. So you can see how it is, and you have to throw the snow way up high, usually over your head. And the next picture will show you the length that they did. So it took them an hour and a half to dig that little trail to get this one individual, one of our ham radio operators, to get her from her house so that she could get down to the road. And notice the width of the road is just barely 1 car wide. And of course, there's nowhere to go because, you know, all the stores are closed and everybody has snow, but at least in an emergency, she could get out. And the next picture here shows one of our other members. So the snow was on top of a cover that they had over their cars, and it just collapsed right on top of their cars. And also, one of their family members was trapped under here as well, and had to get him out. So,
oh my goodness.
Yeah. So, yeah, and it was not good. So people that were trapped, they started walking down the road. You can see the little sign there, barely see the top of it. That's one of the signs on the edge of the highway that just tells you those are going to be a right-hand turn coming up or a reflector. So you can see the snow. This is only the first snow, by the way. Only the first snow. You couldn't drive anywhere, so you had to walk, and that's why you see the footprints in here. Okay. No, power lines are not down at this point in time.
No.
Okay. They will be. And this is my funny one. Actually, Dee Dee gave me this picture. I call it 2 hams that were doing a POTA when it hit. So there they were in their car with their little antennas sticking up. I added the antennas. They weren't really doing a POTA. But I just thought I'd show that. So anyway, it began on February 24th. It ended on March 7th. It involved lots of people, as you'll be hearing about, but I want to turn this over to Dee Dee so she can take you through a lot of very interesting things that happened and that are all ham radio related. So why don't you go ahead, Gordon, you want to pass over to Dee Dee, or I can pass it to Dee Dee, however you want to do that.
Here's Dee Dee.
Thanks, Gordon. Thanks, Tracy. Snowmageddon 2023 has come, but it's far from gone. Radio communications were activated to provide weather and road reports, public service announcements for resources, and for monitoring for emergency situations. There was significant snow, road closures, power outages, collapsed structures, fires, and food and gas shortages. These storms left numerous families in the Southern California mountains without homes, without community grocery stores, and with a monstrous cleanup still ahead. Many lives have been lost, whether directly related to the storm or due to lack of medical care for the elderly or for those people on hospice. It took nearly a week after the second storm for many of the homes to have a first pass with the snowplow. Yes, the county road map showed the streets were plowed, but that means only 1 lane, just enough for emergency service equipment to reach the homes in the area. Houses were exploding and fires erupting due to snowpacks plugging the regulator at the gas meter. Often,
Okay, well, Dee Dee is frozen. I'll give you this bit of audio.
Okay, Ron, we're up here. I thought I heard that Medicare was going to handle some air transport, but insurance you can get to cover air transport. So if you live in an area like
Okay.
So the hams were quite busy, as you can hear. Now here's Dee Dee again. Go ahead, Dee
Okay.
Dee.
The emergency response was by snowcat until the streets could be plowed ahead of the fire trucks and additional personnel. There was a camp that had approximately 500 children at a science camp. They were trapped for several days where they had been scheduled to return home the day that the storm hit. These children were finally rescued on a one-lane plowed access along Highway 18. After being told that residents could leave the mountain for supplies and return with local ID, the roads closed down again. Many residents were stranded at the bottom of the mountain for up to 5 days before being allowed back to their family and pets. There were animals that died, left alone for that long with no food and water. Many families ran out of food, diapers, and formula because the closest grocery store was a 16-mile hike through 4 to 6 feet of snow. With some of the older homes, a lot of them had primary or screen doors that opened to the outside. People were trapped inside their homes with no heat, no electricity, no internet, and no phone. Cell service in the mountains is always spotty, even at the best of times. Some were able to help, but others had no way to reach the outside world without text and battery-operated radio, amateur radios. One of the first calls that we took was from someone who had no utilities and could only text or use a ham radio. A tree had fallen and taken out power lines and power poles. All of this was crossing the street where she lived. The snow on the street was about 4 feet deep. With deep snow and no egress, she reached out for assistance. Edison had told her for 3 or 4 days that power would be back on within hours. Edison obviously did not understand that the power lines and power poles were down and blocking her street, since she could not speak with them directly by phone. With only a small generator and her ham radio equipment, she contacted a repeater where she knew our ARES team had activated. We were able to facilitate an immediate welfare check and have Edison respond within about 3 hours. Thank you. Mountaintop ARES, an affiliate of Mountaintop Amateur Radio Association, or MTARA, has been in existence for just such an emergency for several years, but had never been activated. Tracy Lineker, right there, WM6T, has been instrumental in making emergency communications the primary focus of our club. We train in our meetings as well as practice during events such as the Tour de Big Bear, the Kodiak 100, Big Bear Mountain Bike Grand Fondo, Grizzly 100, and the Blue Jay Christmas Parade. We use portable equipment, ICS forms, and tactical signs. We use simplex to reach and relay messages across the mountain without going through any repeaters. Last fall, I was voluntold that I would take over as emergency coordinator as Tracy, WM6T, the EC at the time, was promoted to the district EC position. I honestly still did not know what it all meant, but 2 very sage men named Bob gave me very specific instructions. Bob Smith, KO6 BOB, the ARRL Orange Assistant Section Emergency Coordinator, said, "In the event of an emergency, just pick up the mic." Okay, but then what? So Bob Turner, W6RHK, and the ARRL section manager said, "Treat it like supporting VOED and COED. Find resources and push out as much information as possible." So this is exactly what we did. When the call came in that a carport had collapsed on their car and the caller's partner was trapped, we knew who to contact. We had connected with our resources from the Mountain Mutual Aid Organization. We had checked in regularly with the County Office of Emergency Services, CHP, County Fire, and other responsible groups. Often, our verified information was pushed out on the air before any of our local media resources posted updates online. The next slide, please. Understanding the geography of the San Bernardino Mountains will help you to understand some of the challenges we went through on this event. There are two very distinct sides to the mountain. Big Bear Valley is on the eastern side of the mountain range and closest to the high desert. Within the Big Bear Valley is the city of Big Bear Lake, the only incorporated area in the mountains. There are other many unincorporated areas such as Big Bear City, Fawnskin, Sugarloaf, and others. Then on the western side of the mountain range, there's Lake Arrowhead, Crestline, Running Springs, and many other small communities. While the Big Bear Valley was able to quickly recover in days, not weeks, after the second storm hit, the western side of the mountain is still digging out. The streets there are very narrow, with twisty, steep climbs and sharp curves. Crestline may have been the hardest hit, with 10 feet of snow throughout the week, whereas Big Bear only received that amount at resort level, with most areas receiving only 6 to 8 feet. And between the two regions, there are great big rocks, some people call mountains. Our Aries team was working on 4 repeaters on both sides of the mountain to share as much information regarding road conditions, weather updates, shelters, points for food and commodity distribution, trash collection, post office and school closures, mountain transit availability, phone numbers for assistance, and so much more. We had 1 repeater that reached Big Bear and a large area of Southern California, but limited reach to the western mountain communities. The second repeater was based in Crestline and reached many of the West Mountain areas, but never would the 2 repeaters overlap, not much. The other 2 repeaters were just regional repeaters with limited coverage. My goal was to share the same information at the same time on all 4 repeaters throughout the day and as updates became available. The Aries team members received morning scripts and regular updates via email. They were then able to read the already verified information on the air as it was delivered to them. Nancy Carlson, K6CUB, my skit, that's sidekick in training, was invaluable to help keep the information flowing to our net control operators. Many of those monitoring the repeaters said it became important that we were sharing the same information at the same scheduled times across the entire mountain. Other ham operators told us that they were texting the information to friends and family on the mountain who did not have access to ham radios. In addition to the local repeaters, hams checking in to the California Rescue Communications Net, the CRC-40 or Gordo Net on HF, were requesting information for their friends and family also in the Southern California mountains. But one of the best things that I found about this activation is that all 9 net control operators, the 3 admins, and 2 general support were all able to work from our homes. No central command was needed, and we couldn't have gotten to a command post anyway. So this setup, what might not always be available, we'd hope it would be, but if the power of the internet or cell phones go out, that's something that we'll need to assess and plan for in the future. Let me give you a few stats. During the course of this 13-day event, we logged 651 radio contacts, 76 Facebook reaches, and those were mostly by accident. We had 2 emergency assist and 5 additional calls for assistance. We have no idea how many people were simply monitoring. However, several acquaintances who never checked in say they listened the whole time. Next slide, please. Now let me leave you with a story of a rescue that we were able to help facilitate. Our NCO received information about a woman who was trapped with snow blocking the door to her apartment. She had been trapped for days and had called for help, but as it turned out, she was help was unable to locate the apartment. The net control operator then reached out to me to see if there was anything we could do. I contacted dispatch. A deputy made contact with the woman on the phone while I stood by listening on another line. Within minutes, the sheriff's deputies arrived on scene. The woman was taken to the Red Cross shelter where she received medical attention. They were able to provide her with the medication she had run out of, and food, hydration, clothing, and shelter. Her building was later deemed uninhabitable. I can't even begin to say how honored I was to lead this amazing group, a dedicated team. They were all so willing to serve the community without delay and for as long as they were needed. And Gordo, we really appreciate you and everyone at Ham Nation for allowing us to share our story.
Well, thank you so much, Dee Dee and Tracy. And let's maybe go with a few questions from the chat room, Amanda.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think there's more comments than anything, Dee Dee. Everyone's really proud of the job that you did, you and Tracy and your whole group. And so I'm going to ask some logistical questions first. So this always piques my interest. How did you get activated? Who asked you to come out and help? Because as we know, some hams think they should just take this upon themselves, but we need to be asked to help, right?
As the emergency coordinator, it was within my duties, seeing the emergency situation, that we needed to activate. There was just no doubt that the situation was at a point where we needed to react.
Okay, very good. And then there's just kind of some questions about how much snow is still in your area?
Tracy, you guys have a little bit more than we do.
We do. It's been raining furiously today, so it's melted some of it. But we just drove through the Crestline area because that's the only way for us to get up and down right now because the major highway's closed. And so you're driving down, if you can imagine, walls, okay? Walls that are anywhere between 6 feet to maybe 12 feet tall of snow. And they have managed to get it 2 lanes wide at this point. But to do it, they keep trying to throw it over the top. Unfortunately, It throws on houses. It breaks a lot of things. But it's still, there's still a lot of people, let's put it, still in their homes and cannot get out. Okay. I mean, we're not talking about a few. We're talking about a lot.
So then are you supporting shelters currently?
No, the shelters are down the hill.
Okay. And the next
down the mountain. We use the word down the hill, but it's down the mountain.
Sure. What was the next question? How many hours? I think I missed that. How many hours did you spend doing this?
Somewhere over. It was over 600 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. That's usually even wildfires don't last that long. So a fantastic job with all your man hours and a great job by your team. And once again, I can't scroll back up because it keeps going so fast for me, but I just want to say how much they're saying you guys are champs here in the chat room. They're blown away. And also the Google Docs thing, Tracy, somebody wanted to know if that was like available for other people's use, or is it proprietary for you guys, or what is it?
No, it's for anybody. A lot of people in our orange section for ARL have it as well. Other clubs have it. No, absolutely anybody can have that.
Okay. It seemed like there was a few that might be interested in that.
Sure.
Josh, you have any questions?
Well, there was the question, I think, kind of a carry-on for the snowfall. Now that it's raining, and my dad's up in Big Bear, like I mentioned before the stream, is there any worry about, I guess, flooding, but probably more down the hill than where you guys are at, right?
We were supposed to get between 5 and 8 inches of snow out of this storm in Big Bear. Mm-hmm. We got about maybe 2 to 3, I think, so far. However, the snow is melting. It's going away and it's going into the lake. And the lake has risen almost a foot in the last 2 or 3 days.
Wow.
Yeah, our lakes, both lakes in this area are overflowing at this point in time. We had 3.5 inches of rain today. We're expecting a little bit more next week, actually some more rain and some more snow on Tuesday and Wednesday next week. So, But yeah, the creeks that are normally dry are making lots of noise.
And
I'll
of course,
bet
the
they
problem with the rain is it's absorbed by the snow that's still on rooftops. That doubles the weight, and guess what happens next, right?
Yeah.
That's right. It's kind of sad sometimes driving down the street, especially decks. Decks seem to be the thing that fall the most. So
Oh, wow.
that's some roofs. And like Dee Dee said, the largest market over in Crestline, the only market in Crestline, which is a huge market, the entire roof collapsed. The other grocery store we have that's over in Blue Jay, which is by Lake Arrowhead, it's been red tagged. So you can't get any food there. So there's only one restaurant on the west, only one market on the west side that has any groceries. Wow. So from 3 grocery stores to 1.
And I doubt they have much there left. So you have to travel even further. Well, Dee Dee and Tracy, thank you so much for joining us. So real quick, Tracy.
One more.
Oh, go ahead.
I think this might be important for you guys. Do you have any need for more volunteers, and how might someone get active if they're in your community?
They could just go ahead to our website, to MTARA, Mountaintop Amateur Radio Association, and click on that and send us an email, and we can get them connected. Not a problem at all.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Amanda. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're fine. Go ahead, Gordo.
That was a success of all the ham operators up there on the mountain, is the constant interconnection. If somebody said, is there a place where we can pick up sandbags, hams would say yes. So the hams really provided more local information on 2 meters, 220 and 440, even HF, than what they were able to get from the served agencies.
Certainly.
The hams were right there making things happen for information.
And they're listening to everything. Go ahead, Don.
I got to tell you, listening to this, I kind of got a couple of Katrina flashbacks, because this was very much on a scope that was kind of parallel to this because of just the amount of snow and the things that have happened. And it reminded me a lot of what we went through down here in the Gulf South, except frozen, which, that's a whole different wrinkle. So God bless you guys and the work that you did. I mean, I commend you. This is just an amazing story. Yeah. So thank you.
Randy wants to know if any GMRS was active.
No.
Okay. And I have one other question. Oh gosh, I just forgot it. Okay, circle back to me.
Some people.
Oh no.
Go ahead.
This was what I wanted to bring up. Sorry, Dee Dee had mentioned we learned how to do this by supporting a marathon, a bike ride. This tons of events, and I can't stress enough to everybody out there that Aries is not just answering the emergency. It's you train beforehand. Absolutely. And you learn how to write your IAPs while doing these other events. So it's important to do the other things. Don't just answer the call, because it's going to be like search and rescue. Oh, you haven't trained with us in 10 years and you want to come help? Well, we haven't worked with you. We don't know how to put you to good work. So Dee Dee, thanks for mentioning that, because I think it is an important aspect, and we all need to keep doing our public service duties to keep our skills up. So I appreciate that.
Thanks.
Great job, guys.
We're good. Thank you. Come back and join us again, and hopefully it's not during an emergency. And Tracy, thanks for being here twice. He's been on Ham Nation twice. Yeah. All right. We're going to break, and we're going to go to Icom with an ad here.
Got cabin fever? Look no further. Spring is just around the corner, and Icom has what you're looking for. Our top quality base stations, mobiles, and handhelds are perfect for working your favorite bands inside the ham shack or venturing out this spring. Icom's newest FM transceiver is the ICV 3500, and it's ready to hit the road whenever you are. With a compact body and simple interface, this radio is a must for those looking for a long-range mobile with a fresh look. Go further with 65 watts output and get louder with 4.5 watts of audio with the ICV 3500. The rugged Icom IC T10 Portable meets or exceeds standard military testing. With an IP67 waterproof rating, the IC T10 can withstand any field activities ahead, hear any transmission, and listen to FM broadcast with a loud 1500 milliwatt speaker. The IC T10 is an excellent choice for any bug-out bag. The IC7300 is a high-performance, innovative HF transceiver with a compact design that will far exceed your expectations. This innovative HF transceiver digitizes RF before various stages, reducing inherent noise in different IF stages. With RF direct sampling, the IC7300 changes the way entry-level HF is designed. The IC705 is a perfect sidekick and QRP companion. Base station features and functionalities at the tips of your fingers in a portable package covering HF, 6 meters, 2 meters, and 70 centimeters. This compact rig weighs just under 2 pounds with RF direct sampling for most of the HF band and IF sampling for frequencies above 25 megahertz. The perfect accessory for the IC705 is the optional backpack LC192 with a special compartment for your IC705 and room for accessories. The ID52A is a VHF-UHF dual bounder with D-Star and FM dual mode functions and is the first handheld amateur radio with a full-color 2.3-inch waterfall display. This radio supports conventional FM communications and D-Star simplex, repeater, regional, and worldwide calls over the D-Star Internet Gateway. Send photos over D-Star with a connected Android device. The ID52A is a perfect companion to the IC705. Both use compatible batteries and headsets, and you can also use the same Android app for D-Star operation. Learn more about these and all the great Icom radios at icomamerica.com/amateur. For the love of ham radio.
And we would like to thank Icom once again for sponsoring Ham Nation. We really do appreciate it. Every time we go live, Icom picks 3 winners to win a swag pack. Those winners go into a drawing at the end of the month. This month, they're going to be giving away an IC 783. And let's see, is it 86? 86, sorry, 786. The winners this episode are Chris H. W5BBM, Chris K, Kilo Bravo 1, JHN, and Joshua C. KF0JPV. And so you get the swag prize, and then next time we're live, we're going to give away that ICV86. So make sure you click the little Enter Now button or the link in the description when you go to the website. It'll ask you questions like your call sign and some other information, and then that's how you enter. As a side note, I want to mention that grocery store in Crestline that was mentioned earlier is a wonderful store. We were there last summer. Fishing at the lake right there. It's called Goodwin and Son, and they had pretty much everything. It was a great little mountain grocery store. So it was really sad for us to hear that the ceiling collapsed on that grocery store. So we hope they get things back up and running. But it's incredibly stressful in that community, as you can imagine, without having a grocery store and just now only being able to get down the mountain. So our hearts go out to everybody up there, and thank you to all the hard work that all the amateurs did in helping people out through this pretty epic snowstorm. So, Dawn, take it away. What's next for us?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, the stories coming out of there. And, down here in the Gulf South, we have the hurricanes. And I'm telling you, seriously, I drew a lot of parallels to what we've experienced down here with Katrina and some other storms as what's going on up there. It's pretty much that scope. To see that much snow and just feet and feet and feet and feet. I did see a picture of where they had cleared a road, and it looked like it was literally 20-foot walls of snow on either side of the road, and people are just walking and driving in between it. It just, I grew up in Oklahoma, and I thought I saw snow. No, that's amazing. Just absolutely amazing. So, and I'm sure that we're going to be covering the aftermath of that on Amateur Radio Newsline as well. So speaking of that, let's go ahead and get into the news of the week from Amateur Radio Newsline, and we'll have a pretty comprehensive solar update from Dr. T. So let's get into it.
From Amateur Radio Newsline report number 2367. This is Ham Nation headlines for Wednesday, March 15th, 2023. Our top story this week is about a boost for cutting-edge amateur radio. A major open-source ham radio technology for HF Digital Voice has received a major grant to advance its development.
The FreeDV project is an open-source software initiative created by an international team of hams and has received $420,000 from Amateur Radio Digital Communications. The team plans to use that money to help bring FreeDV into the mainstream. According to an ARDC press release, the goal is to, quote, open the path to widespread adoption of a truly open-source next-generation digital voice system for HF radio, end quote. Some of the funds will go towards the hiring of digital signal processing developers to work alongside FreeDV volunteers to improve the readability of digital voice carried over single sideband under poor HF conditions. The plan is to improve low signal-to-noise ratio operation and improve speech quality. The team also hopes FreeDV can also be embedded in some more commercial radios. Towards that end, specialists will work alongside some commercial HF radio engineers. This is Kevin Trotman, N5PRE.
4 astronauts are now on board the International Space Station. The crew includes the first astronaut from the United Arab Emirates to fly aboard a commercial mission. He also happens to be an amateur radio operator.
4 astronauts, 3 of them licensed amateur radio operators, arrived on the ISS on Friday, March 3rd for a 6-month stay in orbit. One of them, astronaut Sultan Al-Niadi, KI-5VTV, is also making his first trip into space. The Crew 6 launch took place a day earlier from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. The other members of the team are Mission Commander Stephen Bowen, KI-5BKB, Pilot Warren Woody Hoberg, KB-3HTZ, and Roscosmos cosmonaut Andrei Fedyev, who, like Al-Niadi, is making his first space flight. The crew will conduct a variety of experiments, including a study of the way certain materials burn in microgravity and an examination of microbial samples collected from outside the spacecraft. This is NASA's 6th crew to use the commercial SpaceX transport system. I'm Paul Brown, WD9GCO.
And we bring you our final story this week in the spirit of St. Patrick's Day. In Ireland, hams who love Morse code but are nervous about getting on the air now have a welcoming on-air spot to try out their new skills.
The newest net in Ireland is called Nervous Novices. Organised by AMO EI7LC, the 8-metre net is designed to encourage CW newcomers to get on the air without feeling as if they needed to be proficient enough for a full ragchew. Check-in begins from 2030 local time, meeting somewhere between 3.550 and 3.555 MHz. Amateurs are encouraged to operate QRS to accommodate the slowest participants. The emphasis is on good operating practices, not speed. Get on the air and listen for the call CQNNCW. This is Jeremy Bucci for NJH.
A reminder, the nominating period for the 2023 Amateur Radio Newsline Bill Pasternak WA6ITF Young Ham of the Year Award is now open. You'll find more information and the nominating form on our website, arnewsline.org, under the Awards tab. We'll present the award in August at the Huntsville Hamfest in Alabama. And that's all from the Amateur Radio Newsline, your independent source for amateur radio news for 4 decades and counting at arnewsline.org. With Kevin Trotman, N5PRE, Paul Brown, WD9GCO, Jeremy Boot, G4NJH, Karen Eve Murray, KD2GUT at the news desk in New York, and our news team across the globe, I'm Don Wellbanks, AE5DW. 7-3, and happy St. Patrick's Day. We'll see you next time here on Ham Nation. Now, here's the solar update from our own little leprechaun, Dr. Tamitha Mulligan Scove, WX6SWW.
We have multiple solar storms launched toward Earth that are on their way, and a whopper of a solar storm was just launched on the sun's far side. Those stories and more in the news this week. Space weather this week has gotten really exciting. Now, we haven't had a lot of big solar flares, but we've had so many solar storms launch, I can hardly keep track of them all. As we take a look at the Earth-facing disk, here in the west, right around the 10th, beginning into the 11th, whoosh, you can see a big filament eruption that launches westward, but it has a slight Earth-directed component. And then about a day later, whoosh, there's another filament that erupts, and it goes southward of Earth, but also has a slightly Earth-directed component. Then advance another day, and you can see we've got a big filament eruption, whoosh, that goes to the east of Earth, but this one also might graze Earth just a little bit to the east, along with a big prominence eruption that launches a solar storm way off to the east that's not going to hit us. And then we have another eruption that launches a filament north of Earth. My goodness, we've got a lot of solar storms that are either on their way to Earth or going to graze Earth one direction or another, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. But believe it or not, there's one big eruption that we haven't seen, and that is a massive solar storm that was launched on the 13th and to the sun's far side, and you can see it here in coronagraphs. Look at this massive halo. In fact, this was such a large eruption, it actually also launched a radiation storm, and we're feeling that here at Earth, and we'll talk more about that in a minute as well. Meanwhile, as we kind of take a look at our JSOC far side helioseismology monitor, you can see what we believe are the regions that might have caused this big eruption that we can't see. This region 3234 and possibly region 3236. These were big flare players back from about 2 weeks ago, and it looks like they're causing havoc on the sun's far side, so we're going to be watching them quite closely as they return, because we may have big flares back on the menu and possibly big solar storms too. Switching to our M-flare threat meter, as we take a look at the X-ray flux, we can actually see that over the past week it's kind of calmed down just a bit. We don't have any real big flares on the menu. In fact, the X-ray flux has actually dropped a little bit below the seafloor, and that means by proxy the solar flux has also dropped a little bit. We're sitting in the 140s to 150s right now, and that's going to continue easily over the next few days. This is good news for amateur radio operators and GPS users. Our risk for radio blackouts right now is really low. We're only sitting at about 5% for an R1 level radio blackout, but this is not going to last for very long. So enjoy the decent propagation and the lower noise on the Earth's day side, because this is going to change, especially when those big regions, old region 3234 and 3236, rotate back into Earth view in about 4 days. Expect that the solar flux to rise, as well as the X-ray flux and the noise on the radio bands. Now, taking a closer look at that radiation storm, you can see back on the 13th, you can watch those radiation storm levels begin to rise. And this was due to that big far-sighted solar storm that was launched. Believe it or not, the radiation storm made it all the way around the sun and was being seen at Earth. In fact, over the last 24 hours, we've actually been kind of hovering around that S1 threshold, which is the lowest threshold for radiation storms. So it's not a really intense radiation storm, but nonetheless, it's still hanging in there. And this means that if you're dealing with high latitudes, if you're dealing with radio communications or GPS reception, you're going to be impacted easily over this next day. And this also means that any pilots, please, whether you're a drone pilot or commercial pilots, please be aware, pay attention to those ICAO advisories, because they're out right now. They'll help kind of guide you through this storm and how long it's going to last. And if you're a frequent flyer, especially if you're a high-risk passenger, just understand that over the next 24 hours or so, you are getting an elevated dose of radiation. So just plan that put that into your flight plans, and expect things to get better over the next day, and probably within the next couple days, things will be back to normal. Now, switching to our solar storm conditions, over the past week, we've actually had a little bit of activity. We did have a pocket of fast solar wind from a big coronal hole that had rotated through the Earth strike zone, and it gave us some decent active conditions over, the 5th and the 6th, and maybe even bumped us a little bit to storm levels before things began to settle down. Since then, we've been kind of sitting at unsettled conditions. We did get a little bit of a bump up again right around the 9th to get a little bit of aurora, especially at high latitudes. But for the most part, we've been kind of sitting between unsettled conditions and even quiet conditions, but these are not going to last, because we do have those Earth-directed solar storms that could easily bump us back up to storm levels. Now, switching to our solar flare and dayside radio blackout outlook over the coming week, things right now are pretty quiet. We only have a few active regions on the Earth-facing disk, and they're really not big flare producers. So things are, as far as radio blackouts are concerned, are really quieting down. In fact, as we take a look at the solar flux, we're sitting in the 140s right now, which is still good for dayside radio propagation, so that's not a problem. And you can see that we are going to be ramping up in solar flux over the next week, up to about 155, possibly higher than that, as those regions that we're expecting to rotate back into view, region 32, 34, and 36, as those rotate back into view, these numbers will definitely climb. But at the moment, we are looking at only about a 5% chance of radio blackouts on Earth's dayside, which once again, we could ramp up to a moderate noise level right around by Saturday. Maybe we can get up to about a 30% chance of these R1 to R2 level radio blackouts. But all things considered, we have very low chance for X-class flares. Again, that could ramp up as we get through the end of the week and those new regions rotate into view. But take advantage of this. If you're a GPS user on Earth's day side near dawn and dusk, things should look pretty good for you. And if you're an amateur radio operator, enjoy the quiet on the bands right now because it's not going to last. Switching to our radiation storm and polar aviation outlook over the coming week, right now we are sitting at a D2 minor level. This is the S1 radiation storm level due to that big solar storm that was launched on the sun's far side actually had a radiation storm along with it, and it's actually made its way to Earth. So over the next day or so, we're going to be dealing with elevated levels. We probably won't get back to the D1 normal range until about the 16th. So if you are a pilot, definitely take a look at the ICAO advisories as they are going to be coming out easily over the next day or so. And if you have to deal with HF communications or GPS and navigation at high latitudes, just understand you are dealing with this stormy conditions right now. And also, if you are a frequent flyer, and this does include air crew as well as prenatal passengers, just understand you're getting a higher elevated dose right now of radiation, so please take this into consideration in your flight plans. So the space weather this week has gotten very exciting. We have multiple solar storms that are on their way to Earth, and it looks like the impacts could start as early as late on the 14th into the 15th, and then again about midday on the 15th. So aurora photographers, both at high latitudes and mid latitudes, you could be in for a show, so definitely keep your batteries charged. Now, amateur radio operators and GPS users, well, right now, we don't have a lot of risk for radio blackouts, and that's easily going to last over the next maybe 3 or 4 days before those big regions on the sun's far side begin to rotate into view. So enjoy decent radio propagation on Earth's day side with some low noise, unless, of course, you're sitting at high latitudes, because right now we have that S1 radiation storm, and that could cause havoc for HF comms and GPS reception if you're at high latitudes. So definitely understand you're going to be dealing with that over the next day or so. And also pilots, please make sure you pay attention to those ICAO advisories, because they'll let you know when that radiation storm is going to die down, which should be over the next couple days, and then things will finally get back to normal. I'm Tamitha Skov, the Space Weather Woman. Thank you for watching.
Another great report from Dr. T, and she gave me an update this afternoon, actually, that said that both of the storms have hit. The second one was a bit of a fizzle. And if you'd like to get up to the second, it seems like reports from her, you need to follow her on Twitter, at Tamitha Skov. You need to check out spaceweatherwoman.com, and you can also see her full report. That was edited for time. Even as long as it was edited for time. Check her out on her YouTube channel, at Tamitha Skov. So there you go. That's the news of the week from Newsline and the solar update. And with that, we'll turn it over to Joe Eisenberg, K0NEB. And I'm going to get out of here. My brother-in-law is in town from Arizona. Tonight's his last night, so I'm going to go and spend a little time with them over there. So, Joe, over to you, my friend. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone.
And happy St. Patrick's Day to you and everybody else as well. Couple of things. Today I took advantage of a short break in the winter weather here. It got up to 70 today, so I took advantage of it and replaced my 40-meter antenna, which I couldn't have done without the help of Sean Munson, K0SMM, who rescued me when the rope lost connection with the new antenna and went up to the pulley. So he was so wonderful to get it down for me and reconnect it. And the antenna's up tuned and rocking and rolling on 40 meters. This is also the third anniversary of the date when the Hamvention 2020 was canceled due to the ongoing, or actually beginning, pandemic at the time. And we'd like to also make a mention of the current vice president of the Dayton Amateur Radio Association, who used to be the Hamvention chairman. In fact, Ron Kramer, KD8ENJ, was the Hamvention general chairman when it moved from Hare Arena to the Greene County Fairgrounds. And without Ron, that would not have been possible. We lost Ron on Friday. He became a silent key. His funeral was today. So on behalf of Dara and myself, we remember Ron. He was a good friend. He went with me to Friedrichshafen, and just an absolute hard worker for amateur radio and for the Dayton Hamvention, and a great guy who is going to be greatly missed. So we will miss Ron Kramer, KD8ENJ, who right now not only was on the Hamvention committees, but was currently vice president of the Dayton Amateur Radio Association. I build a lot of kits, and so I'm going to let you see a really unique one that is in process right now. And so we're going to put my screen up, and hopefully this is going to work. We're looking at a picture of Brian W0DZ from there in Colorado. I think he lives in Loveland. And his company, DZ Kits, has taken on an interesting project. Now, this is his exhibit from Hamvention last year when he showed the prototype of his new kit. Now, the Heathkit radio on the left was a classic. It was a general coverage receiver kit that lots of people had, and that was their introduction to not just amateur radio, but AM and shortwave broadcast listening and so forth. And so he's taken on that design and decided to make a new version of that. And you can see that on the right, and it has touchscreen, it is SDR, but yet it has some conventional knobs as well to make it more like a good old-fashioned shortwave radio, but it's based on SDR, and the SDR Play 1A, as a matter of fact, and a Raspberry Pi 4B, and it has its own controller. To put this together is about a 12-hour build, and I'm a little over halfway through this, and I'm going to show you how far I've gotten so far on this kit, and I will be showing the kit once I have it done, and I'm going to try something unique when I have it done. I'm going to try and patch it into my audio mixer and upload the sound so that everybody can hear that thing live as it's receiving on the air. But this is some of the parts that go in there. There's the touchscreen and the SDR Play and the Pi 4B, as well as the heatsink. And here's his assembly manual. If it looks kind of like Heathkit, it's because he makes it look like that. So it's kind of familiar. His instructions are pretty thorough. And that's kind of a sight for sore eyes to have a kit that has very thorough instructions. If you look inside, this is what the manual looks like. And you can see there's lots of detail, and you can check off the boxes as you go. And you start off putting together the chassis, and the chassis includes the power supply transformer and power entry module and the 12-volt entry and the touchscreen and the Pi and the SDR module and so forth, all goes into the chassis. But then there's this main controller board, which I have not put together yet. I am following the sequence. This is what the frame looks like, and it's very well done. It's already punched, and there are things printed on the back of it. The front has a stick-on label, which I'll show in a little bit. All the holes are drilled, and there are standoffs and threaded posts where different parts are bolted to the frame. And I will show you later on, it's got a huge speaker, and I'm really looking forward to hearing that. There's the big speaker, and there's the power transformer and the front panel. And actually, the very, very first thing he has you do is to put that sticker on. Now, I flunked stickers in kindergarten, so I had to be really, really careful. But he supplies 2 3D printed guideposts that go where the tuning knob goes and the headphone jack. And so it helps you line that up. And I got it pretty close using those. But those 2 temporary alignment guides are one of the 2 3D printed parts that are in this. The other is a safety cover, which will go in later on in the chassis, and that is 3D printed as well. This is what the main processor board looks like, and as you can see, there's a couple of surface mount parts that are already pre-mounted for you. The rest you will mount, and there's a lot of parts to mount on this. And you can see that there's a rather large CPU and a connector up there near the top and center of the board. And so you're going to have to be really, really careful when you're soldering to make sure you have no bridges between all those posts, both on the connector as well as where the IC socket goes. So I'm going to take my time and make sure I get those very carefully done when I'm working on this particular part of the kit. The parts come bagged kind of like the old paper envelopes we used to have in the Heathkit days, but these are in static bags. He even supplies the right solder to use on the main board. The hardware, I just took the hardware out of the bag and put it into a little snap-on plastic bowl, and helps me find the parts. You'll notice that there's a thumb drive as well as a SD card. The SD card actually holds a micro SD, which goes in, and that's what runs the Pi. There are 2 different SDR programs. One is the one that makes this thing pretty much emulate the old Heathkit radio. And there's another one called Cubic SDR, which I've not tried yet, but I will. And one of the neat, refreshing things about this kit is he has a screwdriver that's specific to knurled knobs or something, the way it is. I haven't gotten to the part of the kit where I use that yet, but he supplies the tool, he supplies the solder and the heat shrink and lots of other things that you need. And I saw a AAA battery fall out of the box, and I tried to figure out where that goes, and I think it goes to the keyboard and mouse module, because you can plug a keyboard into this to program it and set it up, or to use the Cubic program, or you can just run it with the knobs. So it's quite a receiver, and like I said, it's based on the SDR Play 1A and the Raspberry Pi 4B. This is a closer look inside the chassis. This is the power transformer and the front panel switch, and the back thing that's got all the wires, that is the power entry point. And there's the 12-volt jack as well. So I've been doing lots and lots and lots of soldering and lots of heat shrink and double checking and triple checking to make sure all the wires are right, because we don't want anything to go wrong when we first turn this kit on. This is a better look now that I have the SDR and the Pi mounted with the heat sink, and you can see the front panel touchscreen display mounted. And like I said, the speaker is huge. And so I'm really looking forward to a nice, big, rich sound out of that. This particular kit kind of emulates the original Heath kit, but it also throws in the FM broadcast band to boot. So that's going to be real nice as well. And like I said, probably more frequencies under the Cubic SDR program. But if you're emulating the old Heath kit, it's kind of neat to have that plus the FM broadcast band. And that is the end of this. The kit is called the DZ Kit Saguaro, and it is made by W0DZ from Loveland, Colorado. So I would guess that this one sells around 700 or so. I'm not sure that it's really available yet. It's only been beta built. I'm kind of in the second batch of beta builders. And so that is what I've been working on and what I will keep working on. So just crossing my fingers, hope everything works, and I might have a nice receiver on my desk. So over to you, Amanda, and now you can see what you might want to build sometime.
Oh, I think so. This is pretty cool. You sold me on touchscreen. Joe, because this is Pi based, is there still a shortage on Pis?
Yes, there is. And he has some kind of a dealer kind of agreement to get those.
I've had a dealer before.
And same thing goes for the Pis as well. I think he has an option that if you have your own SDR play and your own Pi, at least Pi 4B and higher, you can get the kit at a lower cost if you happen to have those items. But it's going to be kind of a fun kit, and like I said, it'll have the band set up kind of like the original Heath kit, and it will look like it, and you'll spin the dial, and instead of a flywheel and a cord and a pointer, an analog pointer, you'll see that emulated on the screen, but it will be an SDR.
Wow. Okay. Joe, is that a one-sided board?
No, that is it's a two-sided board. It is plated through, and like most kits nowadays, there's very few that I have that are single-sided boards now. Okay. And it's very well done. I'm just that's the exact point where I left off, was finishing the chassis and putting together the main board. And hopefully by this weekend, I'll be done with that. And it looks like as elaborate as this kit is, it may end up being a 2-month, 2-column thing for CQ.
And that's what I was going to ask next. What should be your expertise level in working on things to dive into this project?
This would not be a beginner's kit.
Okay.
This would be a kit that if you're a little more experienced in kit building. Hopefully he may have these for sale at Dayton, at least a handful of them, but depends on how my beta build goes, and we'll see how, he's already corrected some things in the main board and other things that the other beta builders have found. And so it's kind of a fun process. And like I said, it'll be a fun listen to hook that up to my 40-meter antenna that I fixed, let alone the other antennas. And we'll be able to do some shortwave listening with it.
Have you used the SDR Play RSP1A before?
Yes. In fact, right next to me here You can see I have one of
There you
these.
go.
So
it's a good receiver. I've used it for many things in the past. They've always worked out really well for me. All the SDR plays. I have a couple of them now.
yeah, and so it's a good foundation for this kit, and he is not doing any RF processing outside of what can be done in software with the SDR play.
Mm-hmm.
So he's retaining all the function of the SDR play, and yet making it look like a Heath kit. I think it's great.
Yeah, very
Wow.
cool.
Any other
right.
questions, Josh?
Let's see. How much soldering is there actually in the kit? Like, how much soldering are you doing? It looked like a lot of kind of assembly and patching things
Yes.
together. What's the
Yeah,
soldering aspect of it?
If you saw those wires, every one of those had to be soldered. All those
Oh, I see.
terminals on the transformer and
Cool.
that power entry and that main board, you're going to be doing a lot of soldering. And so it's not so much a modular kit other than you're not doing any surface mount. In fact, his Sienna transceiver kit, all the surface mount is done as well, and then you just assemble the rest.
Okay, very nice. There's a couple of comments saying that the website is actually saying that they are shipping now. So
It's possible. I don't know.
Okay.
He does want to see how this particular one comes out too.
And what's the cost, Everett?
I think it's around 770 or something like that.
Okay.
But there's different options depending on if you have the SDR play and the Pi.
Okay. All right.
Well, I think
good.
we'll-
Get a good soldering station.
yeah.
That's right. And
actually,
have lots of
Extronics?
patience because there's a lot of stuff that you've got to do to put this together. And some things that you think might be easy take a lot of time. In fact, I don't have a picture of it, but I have a vice grip tool that is actually a calibrated wire stripper. And without that tool, I think I would have hand cramps tonight because, in fact, next time when I show the rest of it, I will show the tools that I use that made the job go a lot easier.
I can't wait to see that. That'll
What's
be
the
fun.
website? Joe, what's the website so I can pull it up really quick while we chat?
I would just Google DZ kit.
Okay.
And one says, lots of patience, like a game of operation. Yes.
Got it.
Yep.
So yeah, it's saying now shipping. So let's hold on. We'll pull that up for everybody.
All right.
So it's the DZ Kit Saguaro, which is a great little front panel display that's really, really nice. So this is I'll drop the link, and then while I drop the link, Joe, are you still a fan of the Xtronic soldering station?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'll drop the link for that too. I know you kind of turned me onto that one, and it's a great price for the ham that wants to get started in something like this.
Yeah, and they have a whole variety, and they're very affordable. In fact, in the 3000 series, they've added clip lead like things that are on goosenecks, and they will hold your circuit board for you. And I think one of them even has a lighted magnifier that also attaches to the mainframe of the soldering station. And there's a soldering mat and desoldering tools and everything in the kit, and it's not more than about $70.
That's not bad.
Yeah, we're looking
it's
at
got
one for
extra tips and stuff.
$65. That's incredibly difficult to beat.
Yeah,
$65 for a digital is insane.
And they actually ship from here in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Yeah,
Do they really? Are they
really cool.
are they made here in the
No,
United
they're made
States?
overseas, and then their final packaging and stuff is done here.
Okay. All right.
Somebody asked if it runs on 12 volts. Yes. I have not tested that yet because I've not gotten to that point because the power supply is the first part that I'm going to be doing on the main board. And it does run on 12 volts DC as well as 110. And I'm pretty sure it's set up for European power as well. So there is a selector on the power panel in the back, but I don't know if there's any wiring difference that needs to be done. But apparently there is a way to have it work on the European.
Wow. For one of our anniversaries, I bought Jeff one like this, but it also had the little, like, the heat thing where it blows out the hot air, so you can do like
Hot
your
air
heat
reflow.
shrink. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, you can do heat shrink
Yeah,
and you can
yeah.
do surface mount part soldering and desoldering with one of those. And
How
I think
romantic is that for an
Oh.
anniversary gift? I mean,
hey, that's the way
Can't
to
beat
do
that. That's
Any other questions, Josh, Don?
I saw a couple of them.
Gordo?
I think everybody's just really excited to see Joe's
think
progression
so.
with this and bring it
Me
back
too.
and kind of
Yep.
keep us going on what the updates are. And then Joe, obviously, any of the tools that you want to talk about as far as, what you recommend for people. People love that. So we definitely want to hear more about that for sure.
Yep. And it's possible that I probably won't be here in 2 weeks, but I will be the show after that, I'm pretty sure.
I was just going to ask you, what's the Joe tour like?
Oh, the Joe Tour is busy. Coming up in a couple weeks, I will be in Branson at OzarkCon, and we're going to be building kits and talking all about QRP in Branson.
Oh.
And then the weekend after that, I'm going to be visiting the Hamfest in Claremore, Oklahoma, which is the Tulsa area. Following weekend after that, there's one in Kansas City. And the week after that, I will be in California for the
Oh my goodness.
DX convention in Visalia. And I have never been to Visalia or the Central Valley at all, let alone to this convention. So that's going to be a new adventure for me. I'm going a day early so I can see if I can visit Yosemite. And there's a special reason why, because it's a couple hours away from there. Hopefully the snow will be melted enough I can do that. But I live on a street called Yosemite Drive. And so I thought, well, I ought to visit the real Yosemite.
There you go. That's awesome. Yeah. Joe Tour sounds so not fun. Eisenberg Tour, maybe. We'll think of something.
And coming up in May,
The
on
Eisen
May
Tour.
13th, the Lincoln Hamfest, less than a mile from me, and then the Dayton Hamvention the following week.
Yeah.
So
It's coming
We're
up
getting-
fast.
rock and
We're-
roll time.
We're
Yeah.
getting crazy. And then so that brings us to, like, I need to make sure I invite Dayton in the next month or so they can talk about the Dayton winners and things like that. So it's going to be, this is when it starts to get really busy here on Ham Nation. So everyone stay tuned.
What do we have to mention? Is it Nets tonight?
Yes, we have the Nets. Also, I want to mention real quick, like, this is a shout out to Whiskey Charlie 8 Victor Oscar Alpha. The other day, and I should say it was about a week and a half ago, they hosted a bunch of Boy Scouts, and they were there working on their radio merit badge. And I got a text message saying, could you maybe talk to some of these kiddos to help them get their badge? And I did. And
Congrats.
I had the best time of my life. They have to do 5 minutes. Do you know how long it is, 5 minutes talking on the radio when you're not used to talking on a radio and you're mic shy?
Yep.
So this was a really fun experience, and I opened up to them and they opened up to me. And we, you talk about what's your favorite video game, what else do you do for hobbies, what grade are you in, what's your favorite subject. If you ever hear one of those on the air, try to get on there and say hello, but don't overwhelm them because they're going to get woo. But it was a really fun time, and I have some recordings of it, and I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but it was a fabulous, fantastic time. Okay, let's go to the Nets. It was fun.
Yes.
Those are the moments that make your life like worthwhile in ham radio. All right. 14 Charlie for D-Star, 7192 for 40 meters. And I think, goodness gracious, where's Steve been hanging out? Maybe 3820-ish, I think is where he hangs out. So check those out for the nets. And I can't thank our net controls enough. You guys rock it. And you're so awesome to host this every other week. And we appreciate you. So with that.
Gordo, do you have anything you need to mention that's coming up? And then I got a quick mention.
Was that for Gordo?
Yeah, do you have anything coming up you want to mention?
Yep. Nope. I'm just doing a lot of Zooms with different clubs and meeting one-on-one and little boat work. So all is well.
Fantastic.
I am about halfway through my prep video series for the technician license, and this goes kind of hand in hand with both Gordo's books and hamstudy.org. Everybody learns in different kind of ways. So I'll be wrapping that up hopefully this week because, boy, I got to get back to making regular videos. All this teaching people stuff is hard. Who would have known? But
wait a minute, isn't that what we just did?
Oh yeah, I'm kidding.
And Josh, you're the star in the technician class Gordo book because you have multiple hits on folks being able to see some of the recent shows here on Ham Radio Crash Course. Thanks for appearing in our tech book.
Yeah, it's a very incredibly good, not just a book for learning the test, right, but the content behind it, which is always the kind of, where's the balancing act on that? So, Gordo, you do a fantastic job with those books. Links are in the description for all that stuff, so make sure you go check that out. And all right, so I think that'll do it for us this week. So we'll be back in 2 weeks, and we'll be mentioning the winner for that Icom radio, and who knows, we'll have some more fun and interesting topics. Everybody have a very safe St. Patrick's Day. Make sure if you do watch a Tamitha Scove update, you do it from home because it starts getting a little rowdy really fast. So I'll say, whoosh, and a 73 to everybody. So happy St. Patrick's Day, and take it easy, everybody.
7-3.
All right, now I need some Guinness.
Wow,
All right.
great show.
I don't have any Guinness.
Thanks, everyone. Great show, Amanda.